one second, please. Our collective community, our effective executive assistant, our superb superintendent, and our brilliant Board of Education. Can I get a roll call, Ms. Lewis, please? Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Okay, if I could please have everyone stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our mission statement, please.
To educate, empower, and inspire the whole child.
And now I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss employment, compensation, discipline, collective bargain negotiations, and board self-evaluation.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Franklin,
Second.
second by Ms. Johnson.
Roll call. Roll call, please. Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Morton, Phillips, Scott,
Yes.
and Williams.
Yes.
And we will see you guys after closed session, but there are cookies and water on the table for you. Enjoy. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, audience, family members, community members. Thank you very much for coming. Right in front of us, in front of the dais, you'll see our we have these different signs that you are now seeing all throughout the community. And I wrote a statement because I think it's really important just to talk about the reason behind that. Elementary School District 159 has been celebrating World Bully Prevention Month. Kindness is the quality, or it can be a state of being. It is so important. Over the last few years, we have endured such hate. We must get back to kindness. Give kindness because you can. Do not judge. Learn from other cultures and other people, because if you don't, you will never know what wonderful people can be in your life. Be respectful to all people. Why? Because the world needs more people who are. And if there is no one better to do this than all of us here at Elementary School District 159. Join us in using your voice this month, next month, and beyond, and send a message that we will end hate and change the culture. I say that because we all know what's happening. And at this point, it's really important for us to put things in perspective. We don't, normally talk about anything that's political or anything like that, but we want to make sure that we are raising children who understand that it's okay to be different and that we must respect each other and that hate has no place in our district. I have 2 dates that I want to bring to your attention. October 20th, 2023 is Principal Appreciation Day. We will be celebrating that in our district. And also October 26th is our Safety Forum at 6 p.m. We will have that. Will be happening. The Board of Ed is sponsoring that at 6 p.m. So please come out and join us. So I want to provide the totals for our enrollments as of September, the end of September. We have Colin Powell is at 569, Near Armstrong 283, Woodgate is at 325, Seed and Prairie 215, and Maria Yates is at 248 for a total of 1,639 students. Our attendance, we ended for the month of September, 91% for Colin Powell, 92% for Maria Yates, Neil Armstrong, 94%, 92% for Seed and Prairie, 91% for Woodgate, and for pre-K, our attendance average is 86%. For the discipline that ended 9/30, we have a total of 1 out-of-school suspension for Woodgate, 3 for Seed and Prairie. We have a total of 13 for Colin Powell. And that is the total for our suspensions. And that will conclude my report. But I now will turn it over to our, I don't have mine in front of me. Sorry about that. All right, so we have that, we did a discipline update. We have Press Policy 112, which is the final read for the board. And then now we have TRIA Architects who are going to come and talk about our HVAC and the options that we have. Thank you very much.
two systems per school for one of them. That are the best fit for the district. Some of the other options we looked at are very expensive systems that, if there was no budget limitations, we would look at those, we have two systems for each school we went over today. And then I have budget and schedule stuff we talked to, but Chris will go over in detail, kind of the two options per school, starting with Eden Prairie first.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Chris Carter. I'm with Alara Engineering. I work with TRIA very often on HVAC design.
Can you come to the mic so the people online can hear you? That's okay. Thank you very much.
My name's Chris. I'm with Alara Engineering. I work with Tom often and TRIA on HVAC systems. We're going to start with Eden Prairie. And Tom mentioned that we did analyze a lot of different system types. However, we're going to limit them to two recommendations tonight. The big one that we're going to talk about is a VRF system, which is a variable refrigerant system. There's really two things that I like to see in HVAC designs. That's thermal comfort and that's indoor air quality. And a VRF system can obtain both of those very well. So looking at Eden Prairie here, we see the floor plan up on the screen. We see the floor plan up on the screen. Everything in red there today is served by unit ventilators, which is an aging technology. It's a unit ventilator for everyone's. You have the windows in the classroom, and that's the low piece of equipment that's low and it's noisy, and they can become troublesome. So a VRF system would replace that. Everything you'd see in red, every classroom would be replaced with this VRF system. So now, when you do that, you eliminate the unit ventilator, so you gain some floor space in the room. So the VRF, Tom, would you mind going to the next slide? I have a schematic that I'd like to show you. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. So we can see up, this is a very simple schematic. It doesn't look that way, but if you see the, can I walk over there? All right, sorry. So a VRF system is decoupled from its ventilation. So on the roof, you're going to have what's called a DOAS, which is a rooftop piece of equipment that's going to provide 100% outside air at all time. That's going to give us our high indoor air quality that we like to see. It's always going to be providing 100% outside air ventilation. In traditional systems, you really only see 20-30% outside air percentage, which limits our indoor air quality. So that's one part of the system. The second part of the system is the VRF system I've been talking about, which is a refrigerant-based system. It serves multiple rooms and multiple spaces, and it's able to provide simultaneous heating and cooling at any point throughout the year. So if this room wants to see heat and the next room wants to see cooling, in a swing month like we are in right now, you can do that, where traditionally either the whole building's in heating or the whole building's in cooling. So that's another benefit of VRF. I list up here at the top benefits. It's very energy efficient. Like I said, decoupled ventilation and space conditioning. Those are two separate systems working together as one. Enhanced indoor air quality. I didn't mention before that our DOAS actually comes through dampers serving each space, and each space will have a CO2 detector. So if a classroom is empty, doesn't have students, we're not going to be ventilating that space. We're going to be saving energy doing that. And when the classroom fills up, the CO2, the carbon dioxide detector will sense that, and we'll start ventilating the room. Again, we're just saving a lot of energy by doing that. And each room will have its own thermostat, so each teacher can be satisfied, so the temperature that they want to see. Any questions on the VRF system I talked about? This is going to be an option we recommend at each of the schools. The second recommendation that I want to talk about for Eden Prairie is called a displacement ventilation system. This system is very good for replacing unit ventilators, where, let's say this is our unit ventilator, the displacement ventilation, which looks kind of like this. It works very well for a replacement of that system type. So again, this is displacement ventilation. each classroom would receive that kind of unit that we just saw. We still have the same DOAS providing ventilation, so we still keep that really good indoor air quality. With this system, with the previous system, VRF is refrigerant-based. We have refrigerants, doing all the heating and cooling. In this system, there's really no refrigerants. Instead, we're using chilled and hot water. So we'd be reusing the boiler, or actually we'd be providing a new boiler, reusing hot water piping as able, and you'd get a new air-cooled chiller outside the building. So just a different medium to heat and cool the building. Instead of refrigerants, we're using hot and chilled water. This system does offer lower maintenance. It does offer reduced noise because you don't have a fan in the classroom anymore. And it offers very good thermal comfort. This would be what the displacement induction units look like. Again, they replace unit ventilators, so it's a very similar footprint. And if you'd like, if there's extra space, we could do shelving units or things like that. But they are very quiet and they're very comfortable. So that was CEDIN. Any questions on CEDIN?
So the last system, the displacement induction ventilation, that's floor units. Those what you showed us would be along the wall on the floor.
They would be along the wall on the floor, yes.
Okay, and also in Seton Prairie, we have a newer system, I think, for the lunchroom. Are you suggesting that we change out everything in that building? And we have one other building on here, Woodgate, I think it's the gym. So what I read is both of those systems are newer but still old. Is your recommendation, and it might be in your presentation coming, is your recommendation to change out everything?
Yes, depending on the system type. For the cafeteria, for example, we can't do displacement ventilation in that space because we just don't have the floor space, right? That's replacing unit ventilator. So in that space specifically, we would go ahead and do like a rooftop unit, similar to what's there today.
So you can mix the two?
We can, yeah. So today, for example, the cafeteria is on its own rooftop system that's kind of isolated. It's on the same boiler plant, and it's getting heat from the same source, but the fan that's providing airflow is dedicated to that space. So if we choose the displacement ventilation option, then we'll have to do something similar like that in the cafeteria. But if we went with the VRF option, then yes, we would do everything that's in red, including the cafeteria.
Okay.
That would be done by VRF.
That's still approaching 20 years. I think it's like 15, 17 years. So the equipment you have a brand new system for the whole building except for that part. So it makes sense to just do it all at one time. It's newer, but it's not new anymore, to say. It would be proactive to change this stuff out. There's other buildings that we're not doing anymore because the systems are relatively new. So let me go with that as far as cost. So again, just kind of a recap for this one. It's going to be for the other ones as well. So again, kind of why are we doing here? The system. So we were asked for the univents that we're replacing. So not only to replace them, but replace them with a better system. This is pretty much a complete mechanical system overhaul. So we're trying to do something, a system that's better. The univents are very basic, everyday classroom system that lots of schools use, but they're going away from them. They're not super comfortable because it's just basically a unit in a room and it's blowing air. If you sit right here, I'm cold. If you're over there, you're hot. So these other systems are going to spread out, like your home. It's going to have more even distribution around the classroom. So greater comfort, greater energy conservation, a brand new system. Instead of just putting the same old. So that was the task that the district gave to us, is not to put in the same system again, put in a better system. But we can still use a lot of the infrastructure there, the piping, the boiler. The boiler might have to get replaced, but some of the structure we can use already. So we are saving costs with that. But you'll essentially have a brand new mechanical system with greater comfort for sure and reliability. So the two systems that Chris talked about, So option one, option two. So option one was at first at the VRF system. So another benefit of the VRF system is that there's no floor mechanical system at all. It's all up in the ceiling, right? So in the classroom, if you had a univent pretty much the same size as this cabinet plus all the bookshelves next to it, that would be removed. So you're actually gaining square footage back into the classroom, so that's a benefit of that.
So we would be looking at something similar to this?
Yeah, it would be, yes, it would be a ceiling system. This is slightly different, but yeah, it'd be all up in the ceiling system. And again, it would be a distribution, like in a typical square classroom, you would have even amount of airflow, heating and cooling throughout the space, which is nice. As opposed to, again, one source that's right next to the wall and it's blowing there. Again, those univents are kind of blowing this way over the classroom and around, but they don't really work that well. So these are much better systems, but again, you're gaining square footage as well, which is a benefit. I think that was all I had for that. And the other system, the displacement system that he had to slide for, does kind of replace it in kind. It's still going to be a mechanical unit in that same spot, but it could be smaller, right? Same footprint. Okay. So one option is keeping the same. The other one, they're gone. They're up in the ceiling.
So with the displacement, induction, ventilation being on the floor about the size of that, we're kind of looking at the same thing. It has to get from one side of the room to the other?
It's a better system, so I'm going to turn it back to you. And the only thing I want to mention before I pass it over is that to do these systems in all these areas, we have to take all the ceilings and lights down, and then we're going to put them back up, of course, but then you're going to have brand new ceilings and all LED lighting in the school. So lighting will be a tremendous, change in the overall school. I mean, lighting has a great benefit to the kids. But let's go back to why the other new system's better than the Univent system.
So, looking at the displacement ventilation system, we would have the piece of equipment on the floor in the same location as the Univent today. There's no fan in it. So today what happens is in the Univent, you have a fan that's blowing out air at like 1,000 feet per minute. And if you're the student that's sitting right next to it, you're going to get cold or hot in the wintertime. So displacement induction, there is no fan in this equipment. We're providing pressurized DOAS air to come down into the side of the unit, and it travels through, and it kind of goes through these nozzles, and it ends up coming out at a low velocity. It mixes with room air and comes out at a low velocity. But it's able to still make its way across the room without being discomforting because the velocity is so low, but still going to be able to make it across the room. In addition, we do have a return going back to the DOAS, typically on the other side of the room to help drag that airflow through. The biggest difference is we're not discharging super cold air at a high speed like a unit ventilator does. And it's much quieter because there's no fan.
Between these two systems, which one is the most expensive, the VRF or the displacement induction?
So I did numbers for demolition, putting the system in there, new ceilings, new lightings, contractor overhead profit. So the first system, option one, the VRF system, is slightly more. They're about the same, to be honest. So the total cost, construction cost for the option one that Chris mentioned, the VRF system, was estimated at $3.5 million. The displacement induction ventilation is $3.35, so it's $150,000 less. So relatively the same for a building that size. So if that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
All right, so we'll go to any other questions for Seton Prairie. The other two buildings are going to be similar, but one has a slight difference, but we'll go to that one next.
One thing I didn't mention is that the gym will not have either the systems I described. It will have its own rooftop unit serving only the gym, is what we recommend. That's what it has today, and so we'll just do a direct replacement. That's the most efficient means of doing a gymnasium.
And that's VRF for gymnasium?
No, the gym would be a traditional packaged rooftop unit. I think in the report we did have that can be heat pump option. We have options, so it would still be a single rooftop unit, whether it's gas fired or whether it's heat pump. It's still to be determined.
Okay. Thank you.
That could be either, yep. We'll move on to Woodgate. Woodgate, we discussed with Mr. Trish and Mr. McCoy that we do not want to do anything in the existing 2001 addition. We like to focus everything in the original construction of the building. Today, this building is served by indoor air handlers. There's no unit vents at this school, so displacement option is not something we looked at because that really only makes sense when you're replacing unit vents. So here we have two recommendations. First recommendation will be the same DOAS VRF system that we talked about at Seed and Prairie. The second recommendation would be a traditional VAV system. This is the same VRF, but a VAV system, now here's the new one, here's the third one that we're talking about. This is a more traditional system. It's a lot simpler. We have just a rooftop unit. You can see that there's air mixing now, so it's not, this is like our 20 or 30% outside air unit that is traditional. And this unit would provide cooling and heating and come out to VAV boxes or other terminal units, and those would control the airflow to the space. So you still get individual temperature control because each VAV box has a thermostat. The problem is that code requires you in classrooms to have carbon dioxide. So with this type of system, you have both the thermostat and the carbon dioxide detector telling the VAV box how to operate. And it's not going to be as perfect as a displacement ventilation or a VRF system would be. It's going to kind of keep bouncing back and forth between CO2 and temperature. It's not a problem, but it's just not as good and efficient as the other systems we've discussed. With this system at Woodgate, we would also recommend to replace the existing boiler, which has exceeded its useful life. So this is just going back to the floor plan for Woodgate, and then the same thing for the gym. We just do a direct replacement of the existing equipment that's serving that space. Any questions on Woodgate? Tom's going to talk about some numbers.
Okay, so Woodgate's slightly bigger building, or bigger square footage of replacement. So the VRF system was 4.187 million. The VAV system, the second one he just talked about, was 3.9. So again, they're very close in price for this size buildings.
The last school that we're going to talk about this evening is Armstrong. This time we're looking at doing the entire school. The entire school's HVAC system has aged past its useful life. And we are only recommending DOAS VRF at this school, similar to the other recommendations at the past schools. It makes sense to do that one at this school as opposed to displacement ventilation because, again, there's no unit ventilators here to replace. So VRF seemed to be the best option for the building itself. And then the same thing with the gym. We'll be doing a direct replacement of the rooftop unit there.
All right, so this one, since it's one option, again, Neil Armstrong, this was the biggest of the three as far as square footage to be replaced. This was one system. It was 4.579 million. Again, it's all mechanical, all ceilings, all lighting will be upgraded.
That would include the control systems at each school too, the building automation system.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, yeah, so right now the control systems on a building aren't very good, not very efficient. With these new control systems, staff can easily control them off-site. So if there's an issue at one building, you can control it from here and change the comfort level at another building, as opposed to going to that building to modify it. So that's a big upgrade.
And no more climbing up on roofs to
There can be still some equipment up there, but not as much, but it'll be brand new.
like to turn it on the air or
No, none of that.
no more
no.
of that.
You'll be doing it on a tablet
Okay.
in the comfort of your house if you want to. Yeah.
Then I had a question. So is there any preference around maintenance for either of the systems? Is one easier to maintain than the other, or are they pretty much equal?
Yeah, so VRF systems, they do need to be maintained, not as frequently, but when there is maintenance, you usually have to call out the manufacturer or a specialized tech. Not every pipe fitter can work on the VRF job. there's a lot of components and things within the equipment itself, but they are very reliable, with that being said. For the more in-house maintenance, you will see an easier time with the displacement ventilation. There's less mechanical components. Again, with the VAV system also that we talked about for Woodgate, would be simpler and probably something more that your staff's experienced with. But VRF, there's if you understand the basics of mechanics, your guys they shouldn't have too hard of a time. It depends on the component that might fail. But yeah, there's sometimes specialized tech that needs to be involved with that.
But overall, just being, this is not a piecemeal job, so it's pretty much doing like for Armstrong, for example, is the entire building. So now your whole building is a brand new system that should, for 20 years, should be relatively easy. Well, right now, you're beyond the useful life on many pieces of equipment, like by years. So you're just constantly fixing. But you have a new system. And again, if you just did say, one wing, well, that one wing would be great, but the other parts would be bad. So this is a complete overhaul of the system. And again, another direct benefit, again, is the ceiling and lights. We have to drop the ceiling and lights to get to it, but the great effect is that we're not going to put the same old lights back. You have LED lighting, which will, again, tremendous difference in that building if it's all LED.
One more
This
question.
is LED here.
I have one more question. So we vote on this tonight. We say yes. We pick one of the two options that you're recommending. How long do you think it would take to get it done per building?
So that's a good question. So it's pretty late in the year right now to start design. We would feel more comfortable. Again, there's still a long lead time for equipment. And it's already October, we haven't started yet. We were recommending to do one building this summer, Seton Prairie being that building as a recommendation, as opposed to all three. And just the sheer amount of equipment and this late in the game, it was just our comfort factor of making sure it gets done. So these would be summer projects. They would start as soon as the kids are out and done by August 1st. But it's a short window to do a lot of work. So doing three of them this late in the game could be difficult, just to acquire all the equipment. I don't want to oversell it and say, yeah, we'll get them all done for you. It's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of moving parts, there's stuff coming from overseas. It's been very difficult in the last couple of years to get stuff.
So realistically, what are we looking at?
I would recommend you do one building in this coming summer in 24.
And then one building in 25 and one in 26?
You could do that, or you could do
I don't
one
know.
now and two later.
I don't know if we have that kind of time with this equipment. So if you only can get done one this summer, how soon can you start the next one? You saying next summer?
Well, it's the only time you can do the construction would be in the summer.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes that
That
time
long.
when there's no one there. It's just really acquiring the equipment.
Okay.
I mean, if we were 2 months, 3 months earlier, I think we can maybe get all the equipment. That's just a lot of equipment that get ordered. Because there's other ways of doing it too, is ordering equipment like via a co-op. You get a better price, but it's just very late in the game.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it didn't have to be Seton Prairie. If you said no, if we're going to do one building, do Woodgate, then do Woodgate. And I just picked Seton Prairie as a starting point. I think Seton Prairie was the smallest of the three, but if you want to do one of the other ones would be fine too, but tackling three at once would be a challenge.
How about air?
Yeah, it's the equipment.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, we can only do what we can do, but we want to try and get all three done as quickly as we can.
We would have them, so the advantage of doing it, if you did it over a 2-year period, so the first one we would jump on right away, and then get that one out to bid, because that's, again, we're behind. And the later we go out to bid, the later the contractors get it, and they're already full, and the numbers just keep going up. So, but the advantage of, if we did 2 in 25, we bid that one out way earlier.
Okay.
So we're in the front of the line.
Okay.
We'll be bidding it now in October,
Makes sense.
and not, in March. So then you're first in line. So I think that gives you the advantage for the other ones if you can get by for another year. Again, I just don't want to overpromise you and say it's going to all get done. I'd love to do them all three, but It's just the equipment. I just can't guarantee the equipment gets here in time. We're just having too much trouble getting equipment.
So I know you said Seaton Prairie because it's the smallest one, but have you talked to our buildings and grounds to see what they deem is the school that needs it the most?
We're open. I mean, I don't know if that's the one you would pick, but I mean, I would pick one. But yeah, we would follow whatever you guys pick as the one that needs it the most. I mean, you're the end user. You know the problems more than we do. So it could be
Okay.
another one. It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
If you could please check with them so they can let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say Woodgate would be a good start, just based upon the repairs we've done over the past year or so. But they all definitely need the replacement, but just from the input I've gathered from staff, and I would say Woodgate.
So it's really kind of just come down to a preferred system. I don't know if you want us to give a recommendation of which one. I'm not going to defer to the engineer, but if they're relative, at least we wanted to give you options. There was other options we discussed with the building staff before that just were even way more money. You know, they're geothermal. They're kind of like what Colin Powell has. They're twice as much. So we didn't even bring that to the table. These are very good systems. They're appropriate for these schools for remodel, and they're about the same price. So it's really kind of comes down to equipment we talked about, and two, overall system. So do you have a recommendation of either one?
If it was up to me, I would recommend VRF. I would recommend displacement ventilation for Seaton Prairie, and then VRF, being that those systems are the ones that you'll see a payback on over time. You know, it's going to be it could be up to 10 years, but you will see 20% on average savings over the baseline systems. Like the VAV one I discussed, that's more of your baseline system. So over time, you will see a payback with VRF.
So yeah, I mean, if whatever you approve or not approve, we will have to start right away. So you have our commitment to get out there. You'll see us quickly because we got to get this stuff on the street and out to bid. We have existing drawings, but that's all we have right now. So there's a lot of technical work that goes into it, and still get it out to bid like right after the holidays, you know, in January. We don't want to be too late, and hopefully have bids to you. I mean, I have a rough schedule, but I'd like to have bids to you by the February board meeting to get approved and get stuff ordered so that it's here. We want to put it in the drawings. We have this equipment ready to go like here in June 1st. We'll tell the contractors they have to be here by June 1st. June 1st. And then June 1st, kids are out, or June 4th, whatever the actual date is, it's going to be come in and tear everything out. We'll need, you know, furniture moved by the owner or another third party, clear everything out, tear all the ceilings down, and put it all back together again. But the ceilings and lights are easy to get. It's the equipment. We got to get that stuff ordered in February because it could be 20, 40 weeks, well, not 40 weeks, but like 20 weeks for stuff to get it.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Owens.
Good evening, Board of Education, staff, and our community. I don't plan to be before you long. I am happy that this is one of the shortest reports. Yes, finally. Okay, I don't have a whole lot. So the agenda for the business services and HR department is small. We'll go over the fund balance for August of 23 versus August 22, the monthly STEM expenditure report, and the monthly BMO. So for our fund balance, August of 2023, our beginning fund balance of $43,083,678.46. Revenue slowly trickling in now that, so there's a couple things that are coming in. And there was an adjustment done because our tax extension for 2022 has come out, and so there's some dollars that are coming in. So we have $2,177,751.65. Our expenditures, $4,570,774.02. If we were to end the school year as of August of 2023, our ending fund balance would be $40,690,656.09. This compared to this same time last year, we had a beginning fund balance of $38,776,100.10. Our revenues were about the same. Why? Because the same thing that we're going through now, where the county has delayed the tax bill, we went through the same thing last year, and so the picture looks the same. So we had revenues of $2,505,437.73, where our expenditures were a little bit higher. We did have, higher project costs as well. $5,174,427.61. And had we closed out the year in August of 2022, our fund balance, our ending fund balance, would have been $36,107,110.22. Any questions regarding our fund balance comparison? STEM expenditures. This report, we are coming to our conclusion. And so last board meeting, the board approved for the change orders to be finalized. And so we took care of those change orders. And as you see in the yellow box on the right-hand side, $649,445.81. That is our new total for the change orders, and that increased by the amount the board approved last board meeting. And so that brought our total for the project $8,350,480.81, where we began at $7.7 million. So we did not go too far over the beginning balance after the initial bid went out. Before the bid went out, it was projected that it would be $5,800,960 for this project. So we are coming to a close to wrap everything up. I believe we do have a final bill that will be received from TRIA, which will conclude all of our expenditures, and we can close out. We do have a couple things to do, closeout tickets we have to do before that can happen. And so once that does happen, then you'll have your final report. But until that time, these dollars will remain the same. Any questions regarding our STEM expenditure report? BMO. The BMO expenditures, the amount that you see, it's a little bit small, so I want to make sure that I can see it. $27,937.55. That is the total expenditures that were placed on the BMO card for this period. This dollar amount is increased, and I want to explain that there was a cost for transportation that need to be paid via the credit card, and so that was $16,800. It is grant funded, so it is paid for with grant funding, but it had to come through the credit card so that the payment could be made for the company to transport our students to their outdoor education field trip. And that's what increased the cost. So the difference is $11,137.55. And on your board report, there is more detailed information that you have with names if you just wanted to look at those names to see who's associated with those other costs outside of the transportation. Are there any questions regarding BMO? If there are no questions, this concludes my report.
Fantastic job.
Thank you.
Do we have any audience to visitors for this evening? Any audience to visitors this evening? Okay, we don't have any audience to visitors.
All right.
So in place of our Vice President, Regina Edgecombe, I'm going to help her out tonight as her eyes are a little bit challenged today, but that's okay. Okay, so now we need to motion to approve the consent agenda items. We're going to approve the open and closed session minutes for September 20th, 2023 meeting and the September 12th special board meeting. I'd like to do a motion for just the minutes right now.
This motion by Mrs. Edgecombe. Second. Second by Ms. Johnson. Roll call. Edgecombe. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Morton. Phillips. Scott.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
He said yes. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, we heard you.
Okay. So now we're going to do a motion to approve the accounts payable and payrolls as follows. Payroll for September 8th, $969,712.66. Payroll for September 22nd, 2023, $1,012,875.08. For accounts payable through September 23rd, we're going to deduct out Educational Epiphany, and we're going to vote on that separate. So that line item is $1,070,000, $1,070,168.21. Approval for press policy number 112. This is the final read on that. Approval of the HVAC options as presented tonight. Roll call.
Edgecombe? No, I'm sorry. Motion. The motion was Edgecombe.
Can we stop for 1 second? I have a question. So if we're voting on the HVAC systems tonight, we need to know if we're voting as recommended by TRIA. Okay, so I'm going to amend that. We're going to vote for the approval of the HVAC options as recommended by TRIA Architecture. Roll call, please.
The motion.
You need a
the
motion
first motion
first.
was made by Edgecombe. Second. Second by Johnson. Edgecombe? Franklin?
Yes.
Johnson? Yes. Morton?
Sheree? Yes.
Phillips? Scott? And Williams?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to approve the motion for Educational Epiphany as a payable at $308,328.09. Roll call, please. Motion, please.
Motion by Mrs. Edgecombe. Second. Second by Ms. Johnson. Roll call Edgecombe. I want to abstain from this one. I'm sorry.
Did you say abstain? She's abstaining.
Franklin.
No.
Johnson. No. Morton. Morton. Yes. Phillips. Yes. Scott.
Yes.
And Williams.
No.
I heard you. And Williams.
No.
No, abstain is. It's with the majority.
Okay.
Abstain goes with
You had 3 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain.
Abstain goes with the majority.
Abstain goes with the majority, so it passes. We had 3 yes, 3 no's, and 1 abstain. So we'll have to follow up with Chris. Mhm. So we want a motion to approve instructional assistant food serve.
Yes. Yeah, they brought it up for a vote. Yes, they brought it up for a vote. They pulled it out and brought it up for a vote. They pulled it out of the payables and brought it up for a vote.
All right. Do I need to read all those names that was on there? Do I need to read those names that were on there? Those, I don't need to read those dollar amounts, do I? Okay. It's not names. Okay, I want to motion to approve instructional assistant food service substitute pay as discussed in closed session. Motion?
Motion by Mrs. Edgecombe. Second by Johnson. Roll call Edgecombe. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Morton. Morton and Phillips.
Sheree?
Scott.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We've decided to postpone the approval of the district office agreement for next month. We've also decided to postpone for further review a new case manager position for next month. And we've decided that all stipends. Oh, okay. So, where am I now? Where's the transportation?
You're tabling it. Just go ahead and say you're tabling it.
We're tabling transportation? No. We're not tabling transportation. Please bear with us for one moment. We'll be right with you.
Yeah, you just going, yeah, she's just going to the next transportation.
It's not on here. That's why I don't know what it
Well,
is.
no, you can just make a motion. You just make a motion because it's on closed session.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve transportation as discussed in closed session. I need clarity. In closed session, we discussed stipend, and we discussed new pay increases for bus drivers so that we could attract bus drivers. But we also agreed that any position that was getting a change or a recommendation for a change in stipend, that we would postpone all stipends for further discussion until the November meeting. So if I call this motion for this, the stipend is included, and I don't want to include that.
But I didn't think you all were pulling transportation. Did you all?
Yes, and that was per Sheree.
Okay, I wasn't.
Okay, so we are postponing until the next meeting, transportation as well. Sheree, what we were saying was per your recommendation, all stipend would be postponed until the next meeting. And part of transportation included a stipend. So I didn't want to call for a motion when you asked to hold it. Sheree? I want to make a motion to approve certified personnel. I need to read it all now. Okay. Okay. Leonard Gant, higher 6th grade math. Crystal Herrera, internal transfer for bilingual ESL teacher. Gwen Pounds, higher homebound tutor. Derek Curtis, higher 5th grade, Seton Prairie. Kiara Russell Clay, we're postponing. Dr. Nina Gregory King, retirement, SEL coordinator, district office. Alicia Drew, resignation, instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Latia Weathers, higher instructional assistant, Colin Powell. David Cowley Jr., higher instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Falashade Shikoni, I'm sorry if I messed it up, higher instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Alicia Drew, internal transfer, building secretary, Maria Yates. Dion Gamble, higher instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Camille Torkelson, resignation, food service worker part-time, Neil Armstrong. Charles Pusateri, higher full-time school bus driver, district-wide. Camille Torkelson, internal transfer, full-time food service worker, Neil Armstrong. David Irons, senior, higher district maintenance mechanic, district-wide. Marilyn Davis, higher instructional assistant, Neil Armstrong. Ebony Robertson, higher nurse, Neil Armstrong. Samira Johnson, resignation, instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Yasmin Simpson, higher instructional assistant, Maria Yates. Cherie Johnson, higher lunchroom attendant, Neil Armstrong. Amanda Trout, higher lunchroom attendant, Neil Armstrong. And Brandy Bryant, higher instructional assistant, Seton Prairie. Motion? Oh, okay. Hold on for 1 second. We're going to do our step and lane advancements before we motion. So Brianna Martin, step lane advancement, 5th grade, Maria Yates. Lael DeBose, step lane advancement, 7th grade math teacher, Colin Powell. Audra Rocket, step lane advancement, reading specialist, Neil Armstrong. Rose Gilman, step lane advancement, LRC director, Maria Yates. And Tiffany Ryan, step lane advancement, kindergarten teacher, Maria Yates. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Scott. Second. Second by Ms. Vestron. Roll call, Edgecombe. Yes. Franklin.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. Morton. Morton.
We're voting on certified personnel, and we're voting on and support staff personnel and step lane advancement.
Phillips. Scott.
Yes.
And Williams.
Yes.
Before we adjourn, I need to change my vote for the educational epiphany to a yes.
And then you.
Motion passed.
Motion for,
Have a break.
huh?
You can say have a break.
Oh, okay. And, I want everybody to have a great evening. See you next.
Got a motion
Got
for
a,
adjournment.
got a motion to close. No, that's what, you got a motion close right here.
Okay, okay.
Motion to close.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
Motion. Motion by Ms. Franklin. Second. Second by Ms. Johnson. Roll call. Edgecombe.
Yes.
Franklin. Yes. Johnson. Yes. Morton. Phillips. Scott.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
We still need to work past.
That's okay. Yes, I know, it's a lot. All right. Thank you all for coming, Cherie and Jennifer.